Good morning, everyone. So for the last part of the Essentials project, I'm going to show you how to work with the 2D objects that are in the scene. So the majority of the things that you're going to do, and I'll just kind of start from the beginning here. So when you start your game, this is the scene that you're going to have. You can see it's a 2D scene. You can see the aspect ratio here. And you can always change it as well, but we'll just use the general one. So you're going to find all of the assets you need for scene 5. First of all, it's this one. You can go right here and you can see it. It says this top down scene right here. And then once we go to the scene, so again, it'll look like this. And then here is the scene. And you can see that I have these sprites here. So I have like this couch, I have the dump truck, and I have this collectible that's right here. Now, I am just going to get rid of all of this stuff just so we can kind of start from scratch. So the majority of the things you're going to need for this part of the assignment are going to be in sprites and in scripts. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to add the character. So what you'll do is when you go into sprites, you'll see a character right here, and then we can pick any one of these objects. I'm going to pick the UFO. And just like the other scenes, I can click and drag it in. Now I can also, the nice thing about sprites is you can just resize them like this. So if I want this to be a little bigger, I can do that. And then I'm going to add a few different components to this game object. So one of those is going to be what's called a rigid body, but you want to make sure that you pick the rigid body 2D right here. And you're going to see that it has mass, but when I hit play, what's going to happen is it's going to just fall off of the frame. You can see that it has this control right here. So typically what you do is if it's your playable character, unless you want some gravity, like if you're making a platformer, you just change the mass to 0. And it'll be like 0.11, but it's essentially 0. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to go back to and add is a script. So I want to be able to move this character around. So if I go to script, it's going to be in this provided scripts folder. And then on this object, I'm going to take this player controller 2D right here. So I'm just going to add it. I can add it like right there. Okay. It lets us move diagonally. We can change the speed if we want to. Um, and so when I hit play now, I should be able to move my character around. So that's what we're going to test. You have a little bit of like drag on this, but that's also okay. You can see like I can move in a diagonal. Okay. Now, something else that you're going to need to add that is not currently here, and I'll show you why it's important. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go to my sprites folder and I'm going to just pick some furniture. So I'm going to add a little bit of furniture around the room. I add this slipper, I'll add a plant, and I'll add this couch and this ottoman. Now, when I hit play, there's going to be a few things that will want to happen. And that is really so that we can't move through this stuff. So I'm going to think of them like obstacles. But if you remember from what we had done in Fusion, a lot of these things are, again, you have to tell it that it's colliding with something in order for it to stop it. So right now, it's just sprites that are overlapping. So what I need to have on these objects are what are called colliders or box colliders in this case. So if you go to your object and you click add component, and you can just type in COLL. Now, one thing to note is you have 2D and 3D. You want to pick for a 2D game, you always want to pick Box Collider 2D. So it'll be like this. For this one, again, I'm going to do add component, Box Collider. I'm going to do the same thing for all of them. Now, some of these you could pick other ones, like I could pick Circle Collider, but because they're generally just a box and it's this top-down view, I'm just going to kind of go with what is here. Okay. So now when I hit play, I will run into the objects and it will stop me. Right. Now you can add a push script to this, but the thing is with rigid body, like the physics, a lot of times that's mass. And if we, as we saw earlier, if we add mass to these, they're going to fall off of the frame. So we don't really want to do that here. There's a script that we could add that would push this around, but we're not going to worry about that right now. The last thing that we're going to do is add some collectibles. So again, I've added my box collider here, and I'm also going to add in, we're just going to add in these stars. All right. So you can see when I added these, they already had this script on it that said 2D script and it's collectible. There's already going to have its collider on it, and I can again just add as many as I want. I can add a few different ones, like you have these. Looks like this one is dirt, this one is cheese. And again, if you use the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and make them like a little bit bigger so they're easier to see. And so that's one of the kind of the nice things about using the sprites is that it's pretty easy to change the size of something. Unity is really popular for 2D games because of this feature with it. So I can just go in and add it. You'll notice these have what are called polygon colliders that kind of just divide it into shapes. But at the end of the day, it's still, again, you can look at it and you can see that this is just a box essentially. And you can see like the smaller shapes here. So what'll happen now is when I drive my scene or I drive my character around, you should see these objects get destroyed. There you go. Okay. Now I have a bit of an issue there because again, this is not exactly how I would want it to be, but that's also okay. I can go off of the frame, come back. Um, so those are some things that when you're testing, you kind of have to be aware of because you can see the colliders are maybe a little bit wider than my character. But that is the assignment for this. You're just going to add some furniture, add some collectibles, move your character around to pick them up. And those are the basic components of a 2D game. What makes these a little bit different is that you have a you're using scripting, so unlike Fusion or something like that, your scripting is going to be a big part of this type of game. But otherwise, it's a lot of the same types of things. You can work with a lot of different sprites. You can make your own sprites. And if you wanted to add your own shapes, you could click this plus sign, do 2D object, and you could pick a sprite from there. So if I want to add this triangle, I could do that as well. All right, so I hope you have a good rest of your day. If you have any questions, please let me know.